Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast. What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? This is Christian Brindle, wherever you are and however you might be listening to me today. Thank you so much for taking some time and tuning in. This is episode 162. Every single week, I bring you 3 podcast episodes where we discuss your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with that golden age called retirement. And if you're unfamiliar with my work, I own an insurance agency called Christian Brindle Insurance Services, located just outside of beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's just starting to get warmer here. The weather's starting to warm up a little bit, which I'm happy about because I am not a fan of the cold. We're leaving the winter behind us, which, might not be as big of a deal to you if you're listening to us in a place that really doesn't have much of a winter, like a Florida. I know you say that it gets colder there, folks, but I lived there for a year. The coldest it gets there is mild here. So just keep that in mind. But Florida is fantastic. Love Florida. California. I know some parts of California get colder than others. I know some parts of Florida get colder than others. So take that with a grain of salt. Today, folks, we're going to be talking about mailers. And I was inspired to do this episode from a phone call that I got from a client of mine who's on a very, very good Medicare plan with us. He's covered incredibly well. He has veterans benefits. He's just in a great situation overall. He pays hardly anything for medications. He has access to the VA facilities here, but he also has access to private hospitals if he likes, on a very, very good Medicare plan that he doesn't pay any premium for. And I was inspired to do this episode basically from a phone call I got from this client of mine. He's been a great client for years. I like him very much. We've enjoyed our relationship quite a bit. And but he gave me a phone call the other day that must have been similar or identical to phone calls over the years that I've gotten multiple times. It must have been a call that I've gotten a lot over the years. And I know I have because it's something that, comes up pretty frequently. And that's something that came in the mail that looks like it's from Medicare. Let me explain. It's very common for people on Medicare to get things in the mail that look very official, very government-like, very government-oriented. A lot of times they're in the form of like these little postcards or something like that. And it looks like it's from Medicare. Most commonly, it will say something along the lines of additional benefits have just become available in your area or something like that, right? And they're incredibly misleading because you mail them back and they're not from Medicare. What they are, folks, is they're third-party organizations. In the insurance world, we call them lead vendors. They're third-party organizations that basically work with salespeople, insurance salespeople, agents, all different kinds of parties. And they mail in bulk in a certain area. So let's say specifically in my area, let's say Salt Lake City. They will mail 1,000 to 2,000, sometimes 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in my area that are of a certain age demographic, and they can even target you by income. They have a lot of your information, a lot more than you know. But basically, they'll send these out in bulk, and a small percentage of the people will send them back, usually thinking that it's from Medicare or something along those lines or some government organization. And then for the next 5 to 10 years of their life, they have salespeople calling them, people coming to their door, getting things in the mail. Basically, these lead vendors is what we'll call them, because that's what they're called in the industry. Collect the returns. Let's say it's a 2, 3, 4% return, 1% even. If it's 1,000 mailers going out and it's a 2% return, let's say, we're probably looking at about 20 people that send them back. Then the lead vendor partners with a local salesperson or whoever. They pay the lead vendor for the information, and then it's their quote unquote lead. So when you send those back, folks, you're becoming a lead. Congratulations. And I guarantee you the industry will not like me putting this episode out, because to this day, mailers through mailing lead companies, marketing companies, have been very, very popular in the insurance industry. We've done them before, to be honest with you. What should you know about these things? I'm sure if you've been on Medicare for any extended amount of time, you've gotten these in the mail. And from time to time, I'll have a client call me, and I'll know exactly what it is before they even tell me. They're like, I got this thing in the mail from Medicare, and they say I can qualify for additional benefits. My client actually thought it might have had something to do with the census in the area. And I told him, I was like, it's just a salesperson trying to sell you something you already have. You have the best program for you in this area. I carry them all. We've already done the homework. And if you send it back in, you're going to be harassed for probably the next 5 years. And he said, done. Ripped it up. Don't you wish it was that easy? But in today's world, more than ever, in the information age, with social media, with Google, with smartphones, with the internet booming like it's never boomed before, advertisers, whether it be in the insurance world or whether it be for something else, need to get more and more creative to basically draw you in. It's not as easy for them as it was in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s or maybe even the early 2000s. They need to get more creative to draw you in. Now, some of these organizations, sometimes over the years, I've seen get in trouble in some aspects because they make their advertisement and their mailing too misleading, and they make it really, not sure if it's coming from the government or whether it's coming from, some third-party company that's just trying to get your information, draw you in so they can legally solicit you until you either give in or, you yell at someone. You become hostile. In my opinion, folks, these mailers are very misleading. They make it seem like they're coming from the government. Now, some people know what they are ahead of time, and they send them back anyway because they need help. There's nothing wrong with that. But when someone gets this mailer, they think it's something they have to fill out or they'll lose their Medicare or something like that. They think it's going to the government. It turns out it's not. I believe that's quite bait and switchy. Wouldn't you agree? This is what you need to know about these mailers. This is what you need to be prepared for. This is what you need to watch out for. I'll touch on it in segment 2 after we take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll go into depth on what you need to look for, what you need to know, and what you need to do when you get these mailers in the mail. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Stay right where you are. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking with me through that break. Folks, to really understand the concept of getting something in the mail, being afraid that if you don't send it back, you're going to lose your Medicare or you're going to miss out on something dramatic or whatever the case might be. Because typically the people that send those back are doing so, in my opinion, a lot of times out of fear. Fear of not understanding what they have, fear of not really knowing if they have the best thing. Even if they do, fear of thinking that it's from the government, and if they don't send it back, the government might take their Medicare benefits away. Fear sells in this country. Look at what's going on right now with the coronavirus on the news and every media outlet. I'm not saying that the coronavirus isn't a problem. It's not a big deal. It's not something that we need to be concerned and aware of. But don't you think that some media outlets might be taking it to the next level as far as the severity? Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I was born in 1992. I'm 27 years old. Young. I'd rather say young than old. Throughout my life, I've seen a lot. I've seen the Zika virus pop up out of nowhere and get the attention that this has. I've seen the SARS virus early on in my life. I've seen bird flu. I've seen swine flu. I've seen Ebola. Does it ever wipe out our population or even a large percentage of our population? Not that I recall. Could it if it's not addressed? Could it if it's not made aware of? Sure. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be made aware of or paid attention to, but there are some media outlets that particularly try to overblow the situation just to get eyeballs because they know that drama and fear sells and brings them ratings. It's the media, it's the news system, and it's more prevalent today than probably it's ever been in our history. Most advertising organizations understand this too. And I would say there's no types of insurance that play the fear game more than the Medicare industry and the life insurance industry. If you don't get this product, if you don't change over to this, and something happens to you, you're screwed, basically, is the message. And I agree with it to a certain extent because I think that, if someone isn't properly covered under Medicare, they're in a bad spot. Or if someone, let's say is on a fixed income and they don't have life insurance and something unexpected happens to a family member and they don't have the money to bury them, give them a proper ceremony, that's really difficult. Those things are reality. It's not completely lies, but that is a percentage of people that receive these mailers. The other percentage of people are just fine, but they're lured into something. And sometimes I've seen people, send those back. They're on the best plan for them just because they just don't know. They have someone come out that doesn't know what they're doing. Maybe a new agent. We've talked on this podcast before that depending on your source, anywhere between 90 to 95% of agents in this industry are out of the business in a 3-year time period. So that means 90+% of the agents that you encounter in your everyday life that probably will come to your door, they'll probably call you, are new to the business and don't know what they're doing. Because they don't know what they're doing, they move you to another plan that's slightly worse than what you have. Guess what? You just had a downgrade from these additional benefits. I see that happen frequently. It's no different than the Joe Namath commercials. The Medicare helpline that in my opinion doesn't help anybody. Fear sells. And the fear that you're missing out on something, whether it's true or not, ends up reeling a lot of people in. So here's what you need to know about these mailers. First of all, you should have a good agent. If you listen to me for this long and you don't have a good agent that you trust, whether it's me or whether you're listening to me in a state that I'm not licensed in at the moment, if you don't have a good agent at this point, why not? We're 162 episodes in. I've been screaming about this for 2 years practically almost. You should have an agent that you can call and run it by them and see if it's something legitimate. That's the beauty of having an agent. An experienced agent is going to be like, yeah, that's important. You need to send back in. Oh, wait a minute. Or, you need to send that back in. That's something they need for this or that. Because there are certain rare situations where they might need to get in contact with you for some reason. Typically, not very often, but maybe. Or the agent can say, oh, yeah, I know what that is. That's bullshit. They're trying to sell you something that you already have, which happens frequently, very frequently. You need to have a good agent. You need to have a good agent because you can run these things by them. But even if you don't, anything that's saying additional benefits in your area is not coming from Medicare. Medicare is not trying to sell you plans. Insurance companies and insurance agents are. Right? So keep this in mind. Now, if you think there might be a better plan available in your area and you really do want someone to go over it with you and you don't really have any other way of getting in touch with somebody, you don't really know any agents, whatever the case might be, then maybe send it back. You could hear what they have to say. I'm not saying that these are all bad, and I'm not trying to demonize it completely. But what I'm demonizing is misconception of the message that's being portrayed from the mailer. People thinking that it's from the government and they're going to get in trouble if they don't send it back. That, in my opinion, is dead wrong. And something that I wanted to address. Something that I wanted to cover with you. I have some final thoughts I'd like to share on this topic, folks, as well as some announcements on what's to come, coming into this week and also going forward. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back fairly soon. Stay with me. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking with me all the way to the end. My final thoughts on this, folks, is be wary of advertisements, especially in the Medicare world. You know how easy it is for you to go backwards on your plan? Very easy. I'm not saying that you should just be afraid to change ever, but make sure you're changing with someone that knows what they're doing. And the way to do that is you don't want to call a 1-800 number. You're going to get someone in a call center making $10 an hour, $12, $13 an hour that doesn't know what they're doing. They're not going to check your doctors in a lot of cases. They're not going to check your medications. Then they're not even going to know the market. They've never probably even been to where you live. Be careful about that stuff. We do business in multiple different states, but we know the markets very well. We know the plans very well. We make sure that we know the market very well before we enter a state. That's always something that we make sure of. So just be wary. Be on guard. There's a lot of snakes out there. There's a lot of good people that want to help you, but there's a lot of snakes too. And I hope this podcast is kind of, not this particular episode, but episodes we've done in the past about this, because I don't really want to beat a dead horse too much, but all the episodes we've done about what to look for, what not to look for, how to know if you're being taken advantage of, how to know if you're not being taken advantage of. I hope that they've kind of given you some insight on the inner workings of the industry, and you can kind of spot a snake from someone being just trying to be helpful. Someone that wants to earn your business, but they want to do it the right way. And there's plenty of those people in the industry, but there's probably more so snakes. So just be careful, would be my message to you. And like I said, if you get something in the mail that's talking about additional benefits, it's not from Medicare, ever, 150,000% of the time. Now you know. I guarantee you've gotten some of these mailers and you might have not even known about it. You might have just tossed it away the side. And if you haven't, you will. Everybody on Medicare gets them. My dad, who's been a Medicare agent for 30 plus years, he's on Medicare for the last couple of years. Every time he gets one, he brings it into my office when I do see him and plops it down on my desk. So he's like, "Hey, look what I got. I'm so special." And we just have a little bit of a chuckle about it because we know what it is. Just something that I wanted to bring to your attention because I don't think we've ever talked about it before on this podcast and on this show. Of course, folks, as always, if you are on Medicare and you're just not sure if you're satisfied with the plan you're on, or if you're not, maybe if you're turning 65 and you're just not sure which way to go, and you happen to live in the states of Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Texas, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida, and very soon to be California, those 9 states. Again, I'll say them again: Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Texas, South Carolina, Virginia, and Florida, and soon to be California. I'll let you know California is ready to go. And you'd like to work with me personally on your plan. Ask anybody that's ever contacted us from the podcast. I'd take time with you. I'll spend 45 minutes talking to you, an hour talking to you. I'll show you everything that's available in your market. I take good care of you. I'm really good. I'm really easy to talk to. I try to be very friendly and accommodating. There's no cost or no obligation. There's been people that have contacted our office and decided to go elsewhere, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. But our number is 801-255-5340, 801-255-5340. We offer year-round customer service to any person that's a client of ours, more than any other agency in the United States of America. I'm confident in saying that. Folks, if you've been listening to us on a platform that allows you to do so, we're still doing our contest for the month of March. The first 3 people to leave us a 5-star review and say something nice about the show on either Apple Podcast or iTunes and or Stitcher, and they email me proof along with your name and a good place for me to mail it to you, I'll be mailing you a free copy, autographed copy of the Insurance Funnel, 9 simple tests every insurance policy must pass before purchase, my newest book. It can be used for any, and I mean any, type of insurance policy. So if you'd like a free copy signed by me personally, go leave us a review. The first 3 people to do it before the end of March will get a free autographed copy from me on either Apple Podcast or Stitcher, but you got to show me proof. Send it to me in an email. Thanks so much for the time, folks. Hope you have a great, great week. We'll be back with you Wednesday. Take care now.